6 people didn't wake up on March 31st, 1922, and a century later, nobody's ever explained why. Bavaria, 1922. A remote farm called Hinterkaifeck sat on the outskirts of Wurschbach, roughly 40 miles northeast of Munich. The land was poor, the winters were brutal, and by early March the farm's owner, a man named Andreas Gruber, 63 years old, had made a decision that would cost him everything. He'd informed the local authorities that someone had been trespassing on his property. He'd seen footprints in the snow, tracks leading from the forest toward his house. He didn't know it yet, but that report would be the last official record of his family alive. Let's establish what we know with certainty. Andreas Gruber lived with his wife Cecilia, 72. Their son Georg lived there too with his 2 children, Cecilia, 8, and Joseph, 7. A maid named Maria Baumgartner, 70, also worked the farm. On March 31st, 1922, 6 people occupied that house. By April 4th, all 6 were dead. March 31st, 1922. The maid, Maria Baumgartner, walked into Wurschbach village. She had a specific errand. She needed to find a new job. She told the village doctor that she was leaving Hinterkaifeck because of what the Grubers had confided to her. Andreas had mentioned the footprints. He'd also mentioned something else. He believed a ghost haunted the property. Whether he truly believed this or whether he was covering for something darker, nobody now can say. What we do know, Maria wanted out, and she left. April 1st, Georg Gruber, Andreas's son, went into town. He visited the local inn. He told the innkeeper something strange. His father had discovered a newspaper on the property, not dropped by a visitor, left deliberately, placed where it would be found. Georg didn't say what his father thought it meant, but he was troubled enough to mention it to a stranger. Then he went home. That's the last time anyone saw a member of the Gruber family alive. No more reports, no more visits to town. The house fell silent. And here's the crucial gap in what people knew. Nobody on the outside realized something was wrong, not yet. The family had become isolated enough that their absence at first looked like routine. Days passed without anyone checking. April 4th, 1922, 4 days later, a neighbor finally grew concerned enough to walk out to Hinterkaifeck. What he found inside that house would become one of the most disturbing crime scenes Bavaria had ever documented. 6 bodies. Andreas Gruber lay in the barn. His wife Cecilia was in the bed they shared, her head bludgeoned. Their son Georg was in the bedroom. The 2 children, 8-year-old Cecilia and 7-year-old Joseph, were in their small room. The maid Maria was in her quarters, all dead, all showing signs of extreme violence. But the brutality didn't end with death. The killer, because there was clearly a killer, had done something deliberate after the murders. The bodies had been covered with bedding, arranged, treated with what looked like methodical care, not panic, not rage that burned itself out. This was someone making choices while standing over the dead. The autopsy reports, when they came back, counted the damage in clinical terms. Andreas Gruber, blunt force trauma to the head, likely from an axe or heavy tool. His wife Cecilia, same. Georg, same. The 2 children, same. Maria Baumgartner, same. 6 skulls, 6 crushing blows. The weapon was never found. No axe in the barn, no hammer in the house. The killer brought it, used it, and carried it away. Here's where the investigation faced its first major decision. Who was the killer? The police had to work with what they had. No witnesses, no weapon, no clear motive written down. They knew someone had been on the property before the murders. Andreas had reported footprints. They knew the killer had access knowledge of the house layout and time. Hours, probably, maybe all night. The first suspect was obvious. Georg's wife, Victoria. She didn't live at Hinterkaifeck. She'd separated from Georg months earlier and was living elsewhere. But she had motive in the eyes of the law, inheritance. With Georg and the children dead, she stood to gain from the estate. She was arrested, interrogated. Eventually, she was released. No physical evidence connected her to the scene. Next came a farmhand who'd worked Hinterkaifeck before. He too was arrested. He too was released. No evidence. The police expanded outward. They questioned neighbors, relatives, drifters seen in the area, but every lead fractured. Every suspect's alibi held or couldn't be disproven. And the weapon, that phantom axe, never materialized. Without it, without a witness, without a clear path from suspect to crime, the investigation stalled. Months passed, years. The case went cold. And as it did, a peculiar pattern emerged in the historical record. Theories multiplied, but facts didn't. Some claimed a serial killer was loose in Bavaria. Others whispered about a family vendetta, old feuds, old debts. A few even suggested Andreas himself had killed his family and then been murdered by an intruder. Each theory filled the silence left by the missing weapon and missing killer. But here's what matters strategically. The killer made a bet. A bet that 6 bodies in a remote farmhouse wouldn't be discovered for days. A bet that by the time they were found, evidence would degrade. A bet that without the weapon, without a confession, without a witness, the law couldn't touch them. And that bet paid off. The killer walked free. No arrest, no trial, no name in any official record. A century later, Hinterkaifeck remains unsolved. The farm itself is gone now, demolished in the 1950s, but the case never closed. New theories surface every few years. Genealogical research has reopened old files. Some researchers now point to a specific farmhand, others to a local man with a violent history. But without new evidence, without the weapon, without a confession, it remains speculation. What Hinterkaifeck teaches us is brutal. Some crimes are solvable in theory, but not in practice. The killer knew the cost-benefit of their choice. They understood that a weapon left behind could be traced. That hesitation, that carefulness, that decision to carry the axe away into the dark, that single choice is why 6 people lie in unmarked graves, and their killer, if still alive today, would be over 150 years old. One decision, 6 deaths, no justice. The Hinterkaifeck murders sit at the intersection of perfect crime and historical accident. Not because the killer was brilliant, but because they understood one thing: isolation is a weapon. A remote farm days before discovery, a missing weapon, no witnesses. These weren't luck. These were conditions someone either created or exploited, and they worked. We may never know who killed the Gruber family. We may never find that weapon. But we know with certainty that someone made a series of deliberate choices that night. Choices about timing, location, method, and concealment. Those choices held. A century of investigation hasn't broken them. That's not a mystery solved by luck or confession. That's a crime where the killer's strategy, whatever it was, succeeded completely. Subscribe. Each week we uncover a case that's haunted history for decades, and some are still waiting to be solved.